Today, I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in the Instructional Vision Project. We are enrolling now through March 19th, which is 1 week from yesterday at the time we're recording this. If you're watching this later, it is sooner. So Thursday, March 19th is the deadline to sign up for the Instructional Vision Project. And I want to give a little bit of an overview of what it's about, why we're doing this, and how it all works. We're doing this because I know that you have a vision for instructional improvement. You want things to improve in specific areas in your school, and there is always this sense of urgency that we have as leaders that keeps us moving forward, right? That keeps us pressing to make that case, to make that sense of urgency higher, and to get people moving forward. And I think we constantly have this frustration that things are not moving fast enough, that people are resisting, dragging their feet, that the change is not happening the way we know it could be. And we want to close that gap between vision and reality. You have right now instruction taking place in your school that you are thrilled by, but it's not happening across the board. You have pockets of excellence and you have pockets of mediocrity. And I believe that what we call evidence-driven leadership, what I have on my little sticker here, we're sending this to people lately, what I believe evidence-driven leadership can do is close that gap. It can close the gap between where we are currently and where we want to be if we are willing to articulate that vision in the form of a roadmap. If we're willing to operationalize what we want to see happening instructionally so that it's clear to everyone, so that everyone is involved in generating that vision, and especially the specifics of it that maybe teachers have to think about, but as administrators, we're thinking more about the big picture. So we're going to talk about how we do that in this session. Some of the big priorities that you might want to address, some of the big challenges that you might be facing in your organization are, first of all, around turnover. I hear this from three specific kinds of schools. If you are in a high poverty school that just has high teacher turnover, people burn out, they move on quickly, maybe you get early career teachers or career changers, but they don't stay very long. It's very difficult to build a sustainable culture of excellence where there is a way that your school is known for when high numbers of staff are turning over. The second type of school that I see with high turnover is the international school. We have a lot of American international schools. That's why we're in 50 plus countries around the world who maybe can attract great people, but just can't keep them super long because of the international setting. People want to move back to the States or back to wherever they're from to be closer to friends and family. So you get people for maybe 1, 2, 3 years at most, and you don't get a core of 5, 10, 15-year veterans in the school who really know things and can kind of be the brain trust for the school long term. So one of the things that we're doing in the Vision Project is trying to externalize that sense of who we are and how we do things as a school in the format of instructional frameworks, so that when new people come in, they can see, okay, this is what we're about, this is how we do things. It's not just like a mission statement, it's actually operationalized to the point of how we do some of the key things that matter. And we'll talk about the categories for those frameworks in just a moment. The third type of school that can benefit from those turnover reduction or sustaining excellence across turnover is the school that maybe attracts a whole lot of early career teachers who just kind of move on for personal reasons. Like I went to a school in Houston that tended to attract a lot of teachers who are fresh out of college. And that generally wasn't a problem. Enough people did stick around, but there was kind of a constant churn, and just onboarding new hires every single year can really be a challenge for building that culture of instructional excellence. So let me know in the chat, if you would, which of those challenges of turnover do you have, if any of those? Do any of those apply to you? Let me know. And if you're joining us on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or Periscope, let me know. I will try to check up on your comments and see what you're saying there. And I'll try to follow along as we go here too. So if you leave a comment, hopefully I will see it. I might have to get back to you later if it's on LinkedIn or something and I don't see it. The second big category of challenge that the Vision Project is designed to help you with is pockets of mediocrity. And I'm going to put a link in the chat here. This is just principalcenter.com/mediocrity. we did a webinar a couple weeks ago on some strategies for dealing with those pockets of mediocrity. Even in the best schools, I promise, the most elite schools, the most expensive schools, schools that are $50,000 a year, schools that pay their teachers really well, still have pockets of mediocrity. And in fact, in some cases, the higher performing the school is overall, the easier it is for those pockets of mediocrity to get overlooked. Because if we as instructional leaders don't find them and do something about them, who's going to, right? So pockets of mediocrity occur in all kinds of schools. Sometimes those pockets are bigger or smaller. But if you want to learn more about my strategies for addressing mediocrity in practice, you can go to principalcenter.com/mediocrity and watch that webinar replay. We did a live webinar on that recently, and you're welcome to check that out. The third big category of challenge that we're tackling in the Vision Project is resistance to change. And you probably have a fair number of people in your organization who are successful with what they're doing, they're comfortable with what they're doing, and doing something new, even if it's a big part of your long-term vision, getting people on board with that can be difficult because honestly, as humans, we just don't like change. And one of the ways to shrink the danger, the perceived danger in people's minds of a change is to really get clear about what it looks like and how it works, or what we call operationalizing it in an instructional framework. So let me know of those three big challenges, which jumps out to you the most in your context. Joe says, being a Catholic school, salaries are our biggest challenge. Yeah, absolutely. So salaries can affect your hiring pool. Maybe you're drawing on a different pool of candidates than the higher paying, say, public schools are. It can also affect retention, where you have just new people coming in, a lot more turnover, and a much stronger need to sustain that culture of excellence and define that culture outside of the individual people who are in the building. Because I believe that culture, of course, is about people, but it has to also partially live outside of people to truly be sustainable. All right, so that's a little bit of a big picture there of what we're going for. Again, let me know in the chat which of those challenges jumps out at you the most. In terms of who this is for, I will be working with navigator schools who want to participate over the next school year, the period of the next school year between now and the end of the 2020-2021 school year. Navigator is our highest level of membership at the Principal Center, and it's available on either an individual basis, and I know many people watching this probably are individual Navigator members already, but it's also available on an organizational basis. And depending on the size of your school, it might actually be less expensive on an organizational basis. So we have enrollment-based site license pricing, and that covers all of the leaders in your school. So you don't pay per adult, you pay per kid. And again, usually that comes out to be quite a bit less. If you are already a Navigator member, you get everything that I'm going to describe today. None of this needs to be added to your account if you're a Navigator member already. I'm just describing what is included with that. And the Vision Project is specifically an initiative that I am undertaking over the next year to do some research and develop some case studies for my next book. And that book is going to be about how to develop and use instructional frameworks for school improvement. Joe, thanks for your comment there. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about people who are headed in a new direction, so stay tuned and we will talk about that. If you want to get a quote, our team will be sending out quotes today. If you haven't requested one yet, go ahead and do that at principalcenter.com/vision. We've described the whole initiative there, and we can get you a quote and let you know what the investment would be for your organization. And that goes whether you're talking about an individual school, a part of a district. If you're the director of secondary schools, we can give you a quote just for the secondary schools, or for the entire district or independent school. If you're the lower school head, we can give you a quote for the lower school, for example. So whatever works for your situation. Basically, Navigator includes everything we offer for everyone in your organization. So it is a site license, and it's designed to be a professional development partnership. So at the Principal Center, it is our mission to help you build capacity for instructional leadership, and Navigator is the best way that we can do that because we give you everything for everyone, as well as individual help in developing an instructional leadership development plan. So this is not the kind of thing where it's like, hey, you have a Netflix library now of a whole bunch of stuff, good luck with it. It is something that we take seriously as a professional development planning task. We work with you on a timeline for who should go through what programs, who should complete which projects in order to get you the progress that you want to see and the growth that you want to see. I do recommend that you get our Navigator brochure. There's a PDF of that. If you've already requested a quote, we are sending you a brochure in the mail, but you can see that now at principalcenter.com/navigator-brochure. And that is not specific to the Vision Project. We're going to talk about the Vision Project more specifically today, but you can see all of our programs that are included in that Navigator brochure. So the Vision Project specifically is my work over the coming year with the Navigator schools that are pursuing this. Not all Navigator schools, just are choosing to work on this now. You don't have to. It's not a requirement if you're a Navigator school. You still get all of our programs, but specifically to work together on the Vision Project involves some consultation where we develop an instructional leadership development plan and we figure out which aspects of your vision are worth articulating in the format of rubrics, or what we call instructional frameworks. So I consult with people, we get on the phone, we get on Zoom. There are a few that I'm working with in person, and we can talk about that as well. I have some larger districts that are bringing me out in person. And what we're going to do is articulate your vision and then implement that vision. That is what we are good at the Principal Center, is helping schools and districts do that. And I would love to partner with you because for the next year, I am working on research for a new book. I believe there is enormous potential and promise in using instructional frameworks to get everyone on the same page, to operationalize a vision so that everyone knows what it means. We're not dealing with 50 different definitions, 50 different versions of a buzzword strategy, but we're really aligned and on the same page, and we know what we're talking about because we've developed that vision together. I'm very excited about that work, very excited to make that my next book, and I would be very excited to make you one of the case studies for my next book if you are interested. So Zoom is holding up for us pretty well. I feel like with coronavirus, everybody is saying, hey, do everything on Zoom from now on, everybody work from home, So I'm impressed that Zoom is holding up well. I've used Zoom for a long time for my consultations and for practice interviews with my clients and things like that. So that is the primary way that we work together. We get on a phone call or a Zoom call and do that planning together. And it's a way that I can just be in more places without being on so many airplanes. It's a way that I can be in places that don't have the budget to bring me out personally. And it's what I love doing. I love consulting and strategizing and brainstorming with school leaders to articulate their vision and to make it happen. Again, we have our online programs. You get immediate access to all of those, and we'll talk about a plan for rolling those out to your team. I am scheduling some on-site kickoff days. I've got at least 2 on the calendar right now, and talk to me about dates as soon as possible. For larger districts, if you have multiple schools, we can definitely talk about that, and doing a PD day to kick things off maybe at the end of summer. But just a few of those that I'm doing, and there are a few of the participating schools that I probably will go out to in person, just to get some firsthand experience that way. So the timeline is as follows. Registration is happening now through March 19th. That is 1 week from yesterday at the time that we are recording this. So Thursday, March 19th is our enrollment deadline. I've been talking to people about this for several weeks. I've been having Zoom calls and consultations just to see if it's a good fit with people. We've been giving out quotes for a while. But Thursday, the 19th of March is our deadline. I need to know by then. And starting April 1st, so we're going to be out of school for spring break. I'm going to be somewhere with my family, not Disney World. They've closed Disney World. Probably a good decision. But after spring break, I will begin consulting with schools on their instructional leadership development plans, and we can roll out a custom timeline for your school. And I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now as to timelines and when school is even going to resume with the coronavirus disruptions. We are giving immediate access, so like if you think, well, we've got everybody out of school now, nobody is really sure what to do, nothing is held back. So you're welcome to get started on anything that you would like ASAP. The specific projects that you complete to articulate your vision, that's 100% custom in terms of the timeline. And then in terms of the time frame for the project, we're wrapping this up by spring of 2021. So 1 year from now, I hope to be done with the research and the book. So that's kind of my piece. What gets developed in your school? What is this really all about? Let me shrink my video here just a little bit so you can see all of this. So first of all, if you are in the process of adopting a teacher evaluation framework, one district that I'm working with is choosing a new evaluation framework, and I'm happy to assist with work like that and assist with communicating and getting people familiar with and actually using the framework that they have. I'm working with another school that's not adopting a brand new framework. You know, the decision's already been made, but people just aren't familiar with it yet. It's not a part of their language, their shared vocabulary. And with these frameworks, what we're really trying to do is develop a shared vocabulary for talking about instructional practice. So in the case of that school, even though it's not a new framework, to make it really the language people speak, right? To make it the vocabulary that they use to talk about instruction, we're doing some of this same work. The second type of framework, if you already have evaluation criteria, I know most schools are not changing their teacher evaluation criteria this year. There are several other types of shared expectations and common language that we can develop frameworks around. And most of what we're doing is in these latter categories here. So first of all, if you have a curriculum that has specific approaches embedded into it, those core pedagogical practices that go along with your curriculum, making rubrics for those practices is absolutely critical for getting people on the same page. Because if you don't have rubrics describing practice with that insider's view, those detailed rubrics that say this is what this practice really looks like from the practitioner's perspective, and this is what good practice looks like, this is what poor practice looks like. If you're not clear on that, what you end up with is buzzwords. And as an instructional leader, it's very difficult to really get fidelity of implementation when your only tool is the buzzword, the title of it. For example, when I was a principal in Seattle, we were implementing Lucy Calkin's Writer's Workshop curriculum. Excellent curriculum, and one of the core practices for that curriculum is conferring individually with your students. This was somewhat of a new practice. You know, teachers have been doing guided reading, but conferring with students one-on-one about their writing was something of a new practice. And what we had to do was operationalize that and say, what does that really look like? How do you do it? We did a lot of professional development, a lot of modeling, a lot of coaching, and getting people on the same page and articulating this is what it looks like, this is what it does not look like, this is kind of the roadmap of growth if you're kind of doing it, but you're not maybe fully proficient yet. We needed to get clear about that, those kind of levels of performance. And doing that with a rubric does two things. Number one, it cues you as an instructional leader about what to look for and what to coach people toward. And for teachers, it gives them a roadmap for growth. So if I'm kind of doing conferring with my students, but I'm not sure how to get better, that rubric tells me exactly how to get better, exactly what to do to move to that next level. So some of these are based on curriculum. Other frameworks are based not so much on curriculum, but on school-wide systems or approaches. If you're an AVID school, if you're a responsive classroom school, and a lot of these overlap a little bit, right? Like responsive classroom is kind of a social emotional learning curriculum. It's not an academic content area, but it's a set of school-wide practices that you want to get people on the same page about, because the student experience gets much better and much more consistent if staff are on the same page. So if we're going to use morning meetings from Responsive Classroom, and Responsive Classroom is one of those organizations that actually does a good job of providing you with rubrics. So sometimes it's a matter of taking what's provided to you and making it your own and making it real for staff and making customizations to it. I was talking with one school that's an international baccalaureate high school, and those IB core practices are really key for that identity and for that standard of excellence as an IB school. So making rubrics about practice for IB could be a big part of it. And then every school has expectations that are developed in-house that are specific to your culture, that kind of make your school the school it is. And those need to be articulated as well. Because again, if we don't have a rubric, if we don't have leveled shared expectations with common language, what we end up with is common buzzwords. And we know that is not enough to actually align practice. So those are the kinds of frameworks we are developing. Those can happen at all different kind of Zoom sizes. Some of these frameworks can be ultra specific. Some of them can be very big picture. And that's why, there's not a one-size-fits-all for this. We work together to decide what the appropriate scope of this work is, how much to bite off in one chunk, and what to make the content of that framework development process. So the outcome here is that you end up with leveled rubrics. So you're probably familiar with your teacher evaluation rubric, the Danielson framework. You've probably seen lots of different teacher evaluation frameworks. We probably don't want to tackle that big a piece. The Danielson framework has been 20 or 30 years in the making and covers every aspect of teaching K-12. What we want to do is we want to get together and talk about the best opportunities for your school, the biggest opportunities to get people aligned, to get people on the same page. And we do that in consultation, and then we implement that through professional development. So I thought what we would do now, let me know your questions in the chat, or if you're watching this later on social media, leave me a comment and let me know what you think. So here is what is included. The first thing that's included that I recommend that you do right away, and you can have this done honestly by the end of the day. If you guys are out of school today, you can knock this out today, is the Instructional Leadership Challenge. We have had more than 10,000 people in 50 countries around the world go through this program because it's designed to help you start getting into classrooms right away. Evidence-driven leadership is all about gathering firsthand evidence of practice and being able to discuss that firsthand evidence with teachers using the common language of your instructional framework. And in the Instructional Vision Project, we'll be developing those frameworks. But first, you've got to have the habit of getting into classrooms. And we have helped countless administrators in all kinds of schools, in all kinds of contexts, get into classrooms every single day. That's what the Instructional Leadership Challenge is all about. And it helps you overcome the barrier. So if you're a superintendent and you think, my principals, I tell them to get into classrooms, I tell them I want them to get into classrooms, they want to, but they just have trouble getting it done. This is the #1 program in the world for helping administrators actually get into classrooms. And again, you can have everybody through that by Monday. It's a very quick program. It's very action-oriented and deals directly with the internal and the external barriers to consistent classroom visits. And we help lots and lots of people every year get into classrooms 500 or more times. The second major program I want to tell you about is a teacher-facing program. This is designed for your staff to work through. Now, don't send this out to them today. You can sign up today, but don't send this out to them today. I want to talk to you first one-on-one. We'll get a plan together. But the Instructional Framework Development Program is all about giving teachers ownership of this process of developing rubrics, describing their practice, and capturing that insider's view of practice. Because if we as administrators own this entire process, if we do it all ourselves, we're going to lack that ownership and that buy-in from teachers, of course, but we're also going to miss some things, because what we see as observers outside the classroom is not the whole of teacher practice. It's not the entirety of it. There's this whole iceberg of teacher practice, right? When you go into a classroom, you see the tip of that iceberg that's floating above the surface, but beneath the surface, that teacher has done planning, that teacher has done professional development, that teacher has done assessment, that teacher has had many conversations with colleagues that went into what you see above the surface, that tip of the iceberg. And in the process of developing instructional frameworks, we want to make sure that we're capturing the whole iceberg and not just the tip of the iceberg that's easy for us to see. We want to avoid what I call observability bias, so that we're really understanding the practices that we're trying to help teachers develop. All right, so those two are fairly quick. You can go through both of those programs in less than a day, but we're not only going to go fast, we're going to go deep over the long term. So this is a year-long program, and one of the flagship programs that I want to encourage all of your instructional leaders to go through is our High Performance Instructional Leadership Certification Program. Many of the people who have sustained a habit of visiting classrooms 500 times a year have done so as a result of their deep understanding of how to change teacher practice that comes from the High Performance Instructional Leadership Certification. It's all about having evidence-based feedback conversations that change teacher practice. We've had districts send their entire admin team and all of their coaches and all of their department heads through this program, and I think that's a great idea. And that's actually why we're doing this as a site license, so that, you can sign up individual people if you would like, but typically it's much more affordable as a Navigator school. You pay on a per student basis, and you get this for everyone. I highly recommend you have your administrators and coaches go through that either over the summer, or if you guys are going to be out of school for a couple of weeks, you can go through the entire program in less than a week. It's, I think it's probably about 9 hours of content, and then activities that align with what your administrators and coaches are doing anyway in the observation and feedback process. So that is kind of our flagship program on changing teacher practice. The second flagship program that we include, and this is a similarly sized program. Welcome if you're just joining us. Thanks very much for being here. We're talking about what's included with the Instructional Vision Project and our Navigator membership. The Organizational Learning Intensive is all about change, all about planning change, leading change in a coordinated fashion to maximize learning and minimize resistance so that the change leads to sustainable improvement. So this is critical for any central office leaders who are rolling out a new curriculum, any central office leaders who are spearheading a professional development initiative. Maybe you have a special education department head or director who is working on inclusion. Maybe there are some big changes coming in your district. Any big change needs to be planned with these concepts in mind. So we'll talk about, we'll talk individually about who should go through which programs when, and that program also is included for everyone. Next up is the Ascend Masterclass, and this is highly relevant for anyone who is potentially looking for a new position, who is maybe seeking their first admin role. Maybe you're an intern right now, or you're a classroom teacher, and you are looking for your first assistant principal position. This is the program that I use to help my clients land their next level job. So we've had people who are superintendents, who are aspiring superintendents, who are assistant principals, any level of educational leader who is looking for a new role. This is the program that you want to go through ASAP to aid with your job search. So if you're not sure where you're going to end up next year, I want to highly encourage you to go through that program so that you can maximize your chances during this hiring season and set yourself up for success in a future job search. So that's included as well with our Navigator membership. And if you're thinking the Vision Project work might be further off, my immediate concern is getting a job, you get all of that with this. The other thing that's included is our Instructional Leadership Association membership. So this is all of our new stuff every week, every month. We do the Instructional Leadership Show once a week, and we make that available as a podcast as well as an on-demand video for you. We provide the slides and handouts and everything. We have a planner. I've got my planner in the other room, but we give you a PDF planner that you can print out to keep yourself on track. And you also get the Repertoire Feedback app for informal and formal classroom visits. We can import any frameworks that you have in place already, as well as any that you develop. So we've built a web-based app specifically to help you use the language that you develop for your instructional framework, and that is compatible with any framework, with any teacher evaluation process, and with virtually any device. Allows you to take notes, send them to the teacher, and keep records that way. All right, I think just one or two more things here. Our highest level program is called the Instructional Leadership Directors Roundtable. You get a seat at the round table. This is our gathering monthly of executive thought leaders and industry thought leaders. You are the executive thought leader for your organization if you are the senior leader in charge of strategic planning in terms of making those big picture changes. I work with you directly. We can do one-on-one consultation, but then we also have monthly calls with guest experts. We have recently had Doug Reeves, Kim Marshall, Jennifer Abrams. Yesterday we had Barbara Blackburn on to talk about rigor, and that gives you an opportunity to ask questions face-to-face in a Zoom room format just like this. So we have people get on webcam. We had one of our member districts, three instructional coaches were on yesterday talking with Barbara Blackburn about rigor, and we make those opportunities available every month to our Navigator members. The final thing that we develop together, we've talked briefly about this, but the Instructional Leadership Development Plan is all about the right people at the right time through the right programs. So we'll work together to develop a timeline custom to your situation, your vision, your staff, your school year, your priorities, so that we're not just saying, okay, now you have this Netflix library, go for it. It's not that at all. It's really a customized development plan that allows you to achieve your goals on the time frame that you specify. So you can learn more about all of this at principalcenter.com/vision. We've described everything we talk about in the program there. And you can get a quote. You can sign up yourself as an individual. It's about $2,400 for an individual. You get lifetime access that goes with you if you are an individual, or we do a per student quote for your organization. Now, I know there are questions that you may have, so go ahead and ask those in the chat. But if you'd like to set up a phone call with me, I'd be happy to speak with you individually. I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks with people, and I have one right after this, so I have to jump off on time so that I can be on that call. But you can get on my calendar for the next couple of days at justinscalendar.com. I will be out for spring break after Thursday, so that's why Thursday is our deadline. Make sure you get on my calendar by Thursday. It's justinscalendar.com. And again, you can learn more about the program at principalcenter.com/vision. So what I will do now is answer questions. And if you want to go ahead and type those in the chat, type those in the comments, go ahead and do so. Feel free to reach out to me via email as well. I'll put my email in the chat here. It's just justin@principalcenter.com, which you probably already have. You can reply to any email. I'll be happy to answer your questions. A couple of questions that we've been getting and that we've anticipated from our subscribers. If you are an aspiring administrator, what if I don't know where I'm going to be working next year? I've applied for some jobs. I might not be coming back here this next year. What should I do in that situation? Well, we can do a couple of things. Number one, we can do a quote based on your current school. If you have the budget this year and you want to make sure that that purchase is in place, you want to set up your successor for success, we can talk about that and find a way for you to participate individually. But if you don't have access to the school budget, or you don't want to spend school money because you think you will be moving on, you can join as an individual. So it's $2,400 for lifetime as an individual member. You can participate in everything that we have talked about here. That is also a great thing to do if you are not the principal, you don't think the principal is really on board. So second question here, what if I don't have purchasing authority? I will say, please don't use a purchase order if you're not allowed to. We've had that happen once or twice over the years. But this is something to talk about with your admin team and say, hey, this looks like a really good opportunity for us. I think we could really get on the same page about our vision and get specific about what that looks like. Just talk as an admin team. That's what most people do is bring this to their admin team, their senior leadership, and say, take a look. What do we want to do with this? I recommend that you get the brochure for Navigator, just to have something to hold in your hands and talk about. And that's at principalcenter.com/navigator brochure. There we go. Let me know if that link works for you. So talk about it as a team. I mean, you're welcome to sign up as an individual as well. If you have a principal who is not really an instructional leader, this is, I didn't word it that way on the slide, but often that's really the question behind the question when people ask this, that sometimes there is an assistant principal or an assistant head of school or somebody with some other title who is actually the instructional leader for the school and the principal is not. That happens. That is quite common. You would be surprised at how common that is. And it can be awkward because you don't really want to step on toes. You don't really want to make the principal look bad. But you also don't want to limit the level of instructional leadership in the school to whatever the principal is comfortable with. You want to go out and be the instructional leader that you are called to be. So I do recommend that you bring this up. You don't want to go and do a whole bunch of stuff in the face of your principal, but you can work, and I'm happy to consult with you on exactly how to play that so that everybody is on board, nobody's feelings are hurt, but some great things happen. But yeah, bring this up with your team. Bring this up as a benefit for teachers, something that makes everyone's job easier, that gets everyone on the same page, and that gives you that common vocabulary. So happy to talk with you about that if you're not the principal. Joe, thanks very much. Great to hear, and let me know if you want to chat. Thanks very much for being here. If you are in A charter network, if you are in a district office, if you oversee several schools, if you're in an independent school and maybe you're the upper school head or the lower school head or the head of school overall, what we can do to make this fit for your situation is we can quote you based on the number of students in the portion of the organization that you're responsible for. What do I mean by that? Let's say your district is 30,000 students, but you are the executive director over the secondary schools. Well, we can give you a quote. You say, well, I can't really make the elementary people do this. We can give you a quote for just the schools that you oversee. Or if you're the lower school head, we can give you a quote for the lower school without having to maybe get the high school administrators on board. So let us know. It's all about what's the portion of your organization that you oversee. Next question, what if I don't know which aspects of my vision are the right fit? And typically in an instructional leader's vision, there is a combination of factors and goals and priorities that are very clear, that are very specific, and others that are more along the lines of an aspiration. We want to be more rigorous. Maybe you have a vision for being more rigorous, but it's a little misty, it's a little out there in the future. And you have other visions that are, very concrete plans. We want to have complete fidelity of implementation with AVID or whatever your priorities are. We can talk about all of that and we can prioritize so that we get the right things done at the right time. Because what this is not, I've had this conversation with several people who've gotten really excited about rubrics and instructional frameworks. I had one person say, we can just do rubrics for everything and we'll get super clear on everything. And of course that sounds nice, and years down the road you might feel like you have rubrics for everything, but it's really crucial to prioritize here. We know we can't do everything at once. We know we've got to prioritize and choose the highest impact, highest leverage places to focus. And if you watched the mediocrity webinar where we talked about dealing with pockets of mediocrity, we said to pick the right opportunities for this, the right focus for developing these shared expectations. You want to select things that are high frequency. They happen in almost every classroom, almost every day. They are high impact. They make a big difference in student learning. And third, they are high variability. Right now we have people who are doing very well and we have people who are doing very poorly. We have people in the middle, and there's a big opportunity to help everyone use these high frequency, high impact practices consistently and well. So I'm happy to talk with you about that. That's a lot of what I will be doing in the Instructional Vision Project, working with people one-on-one to help get that clear. So all of this, the Instructional Vision Project, is exclusively for our Navigator members. If you are watching this and you are already a Navigator member, either as an individual or as part of an organizational license, just let me know and we can start chatting. You already have access to everything. You have access to my calendar. So let's get started. Just let me know that you are interested. All I ask is that you tell me, if you're already in Navigator School, just tell me by March 19th that you want to be a part of this, because I need to finalize my list of participating schools. If you are not a Navigator school, you're in one of two situations. Number one, you are already a Principal Center client. Maybe you have purchased a course from us in the past. Maybe you're a member of the Instructional Leadership Association. In that case, we can talk about an upgrade. And I'm just going to say we've been cutting people some deals on upgrades. So let us know if you are an existing member and you want to upgrade to Navigator. There is no further level to upgrade to from there. Navigator is our top level membership, so that's the closest we can work together. You get access to everything for everyone. And if you are not currently a Principal Center client, we can get you a fabulous quote based on your student enrollment. So this is the most affordable way to do this, because you get everything for everyone based on enrollment. So you can get a quote at principalcenter.com/vision is actually the best place to do that. You can get our brochure at principalcenter.com/navigator-brochure. And if you're a district leader or a head of school, a senior leader who supervises principals, you can learn more about how I work with people in your position at principalcenter.com/roundtable. All right, let me know if you have other questions. Feel free to reach out over email, and we will talk soon. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for everything that you do every day as an instructional leader. Take care.